So it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it's not true.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. If I was immunosuppressed, why wouldn't I want to activate that immune system? Welcome to Herbalism Uncensored, the podcast where we dig deep into the world of herbalism and natural healing. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Lila. We're two clinical herbalists who recognize the need for honest and authentic conversations about the state of natural healing today. As practitioners, we feel called to have uncensored discussions about why people aren't finding relief and what to do about it.
If you're frustrated by lack of results, overwhelmed by conflicting advice online, disillusioned by the commercialization of wellness, or simply passionate about natural healing, you're in the right place.
This podcast is our way of cutting through the noise, busting myths, and challenging marketing gimmicks.
This is Herbalism Uncensored,
where together we're nurturing the future of natural healing.
The contents of this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to be a substitute in any way for professional medical advice, treatment, or diagnosis. It's important that you always seek the advice of your physician or other licensed healthcare provider with any questions or concerns you may have regarding a medical condition.
Welcome to the ashwagandha episode. I've been waiting so long to talk about ashwagandha. This herb is trendy right now. It is everywhere. It's being covered on news stations and TikTok and social media. It's in all your new protein bars and adaptogenic drinks. It's become absolutely buzzy. And with that comes a lot of misinformation, confusion, and myths. So today we are going to bust some of the most common ashwagandha myths. If you've been using ashwagandha, you're interested in it, you're scared of it, any of the things, this episode is for you. So today, let's start with explaining what is ashwagandha.
Well, let's see. Ashwagandha is the root of a plant that's related to a tomato plant. In its simplest form, ashwa means horse in Sanskrit, and gandha means smell. So it literally means smells of a horse. And traditionally, it's said to give you strength, vitality, and stamina. It makes you like a horse. And it is number one tonic for men in Ayurveda. It's been used for over 5,000 years. It's considered a rasayana. Ayana is a path. Rasa is juice. This is the path of juice. These are our rejuvenative, anti-aging category of herbs. They support energy, vitality, longevity. It's classified as an adaptogen, meaning it helps the body to adapt to stress physically, mentally, emotionally. It has a normalizing effect on the body. It's been used for nervous exhaustion, fatigue, hormonal imbalance, anxiety, low libido, weakened immunity, general depletion, insomnia. The list really goes on and on. So there's a lot of really strange stuff being said on the internet about ashwagandha today.
There really is. And full disclosure for this episode, I went on Instagram and watched a lot of reels related to ashwagandha, and the things being said just made my skin crawl a little bit.
You know what I find funny is I've been taking ashwagandha for about 11 years. And just over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, ashwagandha has started to become a herb or a supplement that people know about and want to talk about. I think Kim Kardashian came out with some gummies or something like that really put it on the market. And now everyone's taking it and they've got a lot of strange ideas. That's what I've just found, is a lot of strange ideas about ashwagandha that do not line up with my experience.
Yes. And I was going to say, I haven't been using it quite as long as you. I've probably been using it for 3 or 4 years. And I would say it's something that's absolutely helped me overcome chronic anxiety that I've dealt with for most of my life. I use it in practice a lot with clients, and I see great results with it. And the things that I see and observe in my clinical practice also do not mirror what people are saying about it out on the internet. So where this internet hoopla is coming from, I think we'll dive into a little bit today. But when things get trendy, people like to hop on a bandwagon, and then it's just it's been chaos.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know where this information comes from. I don't. So, should we get into the myths?
Yes, let's do it. Myth number 1. And this myth spans for a lot of herbs, not just ashwagandha, but people keep saying you have to cycle on and off of ashwagandha. People make videos about it. You go down in the comment section and people say things like 40 days on, 40 days off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. It's very common right now that this is something that must be cycled on and off of. Alicia, I know you got opinions on this.
Well, it's ridiculous, is my opinion. It's the root of a tomato plant. It's like saying you need to cycle on and off potatoes. If you eat potatoes every day, what do they think it's going to happen if you don't cycle on and off of it? And where does this come from?
So the theories or thoughts that are being shared are, 1, you develop a tolerance, or 2, after prolonged usage, it causes side effects, which we will kind of get into in myth number 2, or it just becomes ineffective over time. And I mentioned earlier that this is kind of said about a lot of herbs out there. And while there are herbs that should only be taken for short term, this concept that we need to cycle on and off things, I think stems in some part from how we view pharmaceutical medicine.
There's this idea, I think, out there that herbs are like pharmaceuticals. I think you're right. I think you're spot on with that, because with a pharmaceutical, you're going to have things like you've got half-lives and you've got things that are building up. And this was something, let me see if I can get this here, because I was just looking at studies in natural remedies, right? So the National Institute of Healthcare has $47.7 billion a year that they allocate towards research, but only 70.3 million goes towards researching natural remedies. And that sounds like a lot of money, but it's actually 0.36% of the total budget. So most of the research that goes on in medicine and how things that are taken medicinally affect people are done on pharmaceuticals. And I think that we make this assumption that people react to plants the same way they react to pharmaceuticals. And this just isn't so. You develop a tolerance to it. I'm trying to think of something I eat a lot. I drink celery juice every day. I have not developed a tolerance to celery juice.
Yeah, most herbs are food-like. It's food. It's
It's food. It's not food-like, it's food. It might not taste good like food. You might not eat it the way you can crunch on a piece of celery, but I would argue that my celery juice is just as medicinal as an ashwagandha root.
I would agree. Yeah, I would. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's food like, and what that really means, right? It's not like you said, it doesn't taste good. You're not going to eat it like food. You're not going to go sit down and enjoy a nice bowl of ashwagandha. But what it means is your body is accepting it as food and recognizing it as food. When food comes into your body knows what to do with it. It recognizes it. It's not this single substance coming in to do the single action like a drug. So yeah, your body doesn't build up tolerances. It doesn't create side effects over time. These are myths. And for context, ashwagandha, as Alicia mentioned earlier, has been used for well over 5,000 years in Ayurveda. And it is commonplace once men become a certain age, I believe it's around 30 to 35, they take it every day for the rest of their lives, for maintenance, for longevity, for health. It is an herb that is meant to be taken in small doses for life. That is not something that's being cycled on and off of, or they're taking breaks from. They're doing it every single day. Now, I will caveat that sometimes we use high doses in clinical practice, and you don't need to use these really high doses for years at a time. Eventually, you need to scale back and be on maintenance doses. But again, there's no need to necessarily come on and off of these things because of the way people think they're going to act in the body.
Exactly. And so then going on to myth number 2, and this one cracked me up when you sent me the reels. Send any reels you want to send, please send them to Lila. Lila is on Instagram watching reels. She wants to see your reels. And then she'll send them to me. And it was like watching, what do you call that? Mainstream media during the pandemic, where it's just like you could flip channel to channel and everyone's saying the exact same sentence. You sent me 3 or 4 reels and they're all, Ashwagandha has a dark side. There's a dark side to ashwagandha. And the dark side, this so-called dark side, is that it causes anxiety and depression. And I will tell you that I have scoured the National Institute of Health and I've looked at all kinds of medical journals, and I cannot find anything that says ashwagandha causes anxiety or depression. The only thing I can find is that it helps to alleviate anxiety and depression.
So I think it's really important to bring up the fact that ashwagandha is an adaptogen. There are only 11 true adaptogens on the planet. That means that they've been studied and rigorously tested and validated. Only 11 plants have this status. And in order for something to be a true adaptogen, like ashwagandha is, it must be non toxic at normal doses. That means it's not causing side effects. It must have a normalizing effect in the body. So it's not stimulating, it's not suppressing, it's not doing anything to tell the body to do a certain action. It's very non-specific in action. So all of these traits are necessary for something to be an adaptogen. And we'll talk about this a little bit more as the episode progresses. But for something to be an adaptogen, it can't be going around causing a bunch of side effects. And so when people are on the internet talking about the dark side, that it causes anxiety and depression, we hear this and we're like, this is absolutely insane. But we can't bypass people's experiences. And I think we should take this a layer deeper and speculate what we think is going on here. What do you think, Alicia?
Well, people are taking the extract. Side effects from ashwagandha are not happening from the whole herb. And we had found it. I was looking for it. We couldn't find the case study. Remember? There were a couple of cases of women who were on ashwagandha root extract. Here it is. I found a case study. A 62-year-old female in otherwise good health was diagnosed with thyrotoxicosis after self-medication with Withania somnifera. She began supplementing with ashwagandha root extract for stress and anxiety relief. After about 2 months of consistent daily dosing at 1,950 milligrams, she experienced worsened anxiety, hysteric behaviors, extreme physical fatigue, unintentional weight loss, lack of concentration, poor memory, and increased resting heart rate. That is the only information that's available. We don't know where the extract came from, who the manufacturer was, what it was standardized to. And this is the thing about extracts. So plants are complex. Whole plants are complex. Usually, I'm guessing here because this abstract does not tell me, but when you buy an herb that is an extract, especially with ashwagandha in particular, it is standardized to the withanolides, to a certain percentage of withanolides. But there are 35 to 40 withanolides in ashwagandha, 10 to 12 alkaloids, additional saponins, and additional constituents. And they all work synergistically together. So when you extract one of those things and then multiply it by I don't know how much because we don't know the percentage, then the body's going to react differently to it than it would to the entire plant. And withanolides are treated in the body like a steroid. Your body sees it and goes, oh, I know what to do with this. And it treats it the same way it would treat a hormone.
I think this is so important to call attention to. And I think we're going to keep coming back to the standardized extracts throughout the episode as being a problem. Historically, again, we've been using ashwagandha for 5,000 plus years in its whole root form. Now we are dicking around with things that we don't know the consequences of. And
dicking around.
Am I allowed to say that?
I love the authenticity of it. Yes, y'all stop dicking around with the ashwagandha.
Well, we are. We have this arrogance that we think we know better than the plants. And so we're taking this thing and you know what? The active constituents of plants that we standardized to are, yes, absolutely part of the plants that make a difference. But as Alicia said, plants are complex and we don't even understand how this plant is truly acting. I mean, we hear curcumin as the gold star for turmeric, when in reality, turmeric's got a lot of other constituents that do a lot of other things that we're missing out on because we're only paying attention to this one thing. And that's happening with ashwagandha and all the other plants that we are sitting here standardizing and extracting from. So when we really just zero in all our attention on one thing, we're missing the broader nuances of how these plants work and how our bodies work with these plants. And it really is arrogant, in my opinion, because these people are often scientists. They aren't healthcare providers. They're not herbalists. They don't know what they're doing with the plants. And we are getting things hitting the market that are going to cause issues that we don't even know yet because this is so new.
Exactly. I think that there's something to be said about research and labs and testing, and I'm all for it. And I think that there should be a lot more of it. But the bottom line here is that like I said, I scoured the internet, and the only time I could find anything that said that anybody had any kind of a side effect, they were taking an extract.
Yeah, I'm also going to caveat one thing I did find through my research is people are doing extracts of the leaves, Alicia.
Now that's strange.
Yes, or we're seeing extracts that are the root and the leaves. So not only are we extracting the plant and concentrating it in a way that's never been done, we're using parts of the plant that have no traditional use whatsoever.
Okay. So then that brings me into the whole nightshade thing. Extracts of the leaf. Because
Mhm.
myth number 3, don't take if you have a nightshade sensitivity. Well, it is part of the nightshade family. This is related to tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant. But the alkaloids that we're worried about in nightshades that can potentially cause problems with people who have nightshade sensitivities are in their lowest concentration in the root of the plant. They are in higher concentrations in the unripe fruit of the plant, the sprouts of the plant, and the leafy greens. So the part of ashwagandha that's used traditionally to help regulate sleep cycles, to help with anxiety, to increase stamina and longevity is the root of the plant. So the only reason that I can think of anyone taking extract from the leaves and bottling it and selling it is because they're just trying to make money off of something that would otherwise be waste in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. That or they just have no idea what they're doing.
Ignorance or deception.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point with the nightshades. Just because something's in the same botanical family doesn't necessarily mean it has the same constituents across the board through all the plants. And we know, and we can verify this through our clinical practices, that most people with nightshade sensitivities can tolerate ashwagandha just fine. The constituents that we're worried about or people with nightshade sensitivities react to are in such low doses or amounts in the root system that people don't have a reaction. So it is a myth that if you have a nightshade sensitivity, you cannot take ashwagandha. I would caveat that with if you do have a nightshade sensitivity or you're trying any new plant or supplement, you always start low and go slow and make sure your body accepts it, but don't let yourself miss out on medicine that could be good for you because of this myth.
Absolutely. And this is something that, right, we come back to often, that something's good for everyone. Not everything's good, or nothing's good for everyone. Is that what it is? We're going to get it straight one day. There's something good for each person, but there's not one thing that's good for every person. That at least gets the point across.
Every
Because
substance on this planet is good for someone. Nothing is good for everyone.
there we go. Fifth time's a charm. But yes, anything that you do, start low, go slow, listen to your body. If you don't like the way it feels, if you feel like you're having a reaction, stop. There's something better out there for you. But this idea that you can't take ashwagandha if you have a nightshade sensitivity is over generalized diet advice. It's
Yes.
born out of a misunderstanding of plant constituent.
Amen, girl. Okay, I'm taking myth number 4 because because it excites me. Myth number 4 is that you can take ashwagandha before bed to help you sleep. And I will out myself right here. When I first started taking ashwagandha before I knew anything about anything, I was taking a tincture that said 5 drops 3 times a day, and then you could use 10 drops before bed to help you sleep. And I don't think I felt anything, but I would do it before bed thinking that this was going to help me sleep. Well, here's the thing, everybody. Ashwagandha is not a sedative, and it does not work acutely on the nervous system to induce sleep. You cannot use it acutely for sleep. I'm so sorry if that means your nighttime sleepy ashwagandha gummy bears aren't doing anything, but that's not how the plant works. The plant works by regulating your cortisol levels, by supporting your HPA axis, by normalizing your circadian rhythms. And those things happen over time. They do not happen acutely. We have herbs that you take, you go to sleep, they are sedatives. This is not a sedative. It does not work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. This is a slow acting remedy, right? It's something that you take over a period of time and you don't feel any different from it for weeks. Anecdotally, I will share that I've spoken to many people face to face who say, I took it, I felt relaxed. And if that's the case, then good.
Liars, all of them.
I'm just glad there's a placebo effect. And I don't claim to know what goes on in everyone's body, but you don't have to take it before bed to go to sleep. And it's not a sedative. But WebMD says it is. WebMD says it's a sedative.
Don't get your health advice from WebMD. And I will agree.
Don't get your herb advice from WebMD.
Yeah. I would agree that sometimes just the placebo effect is very real, and that's not a bad thing. And just the act of having a ritual or something that you're intentionally doing to care for yourself, that has benefit in itself. So that action that you are taking to nourish your body before bed might make you feel calm and relaxed. It's giving you ease and peace of mind that you are doing something to make a difference. But the herb is not specifically putting you to sleep. So you can take your ashwagandha at any time of day.
And it will help regulate your sleep cycle, whether you take it in the morning or afternoon or at night before bed.
Yes, exactly. Helps with sleep, just not in the moment.
So, how about number 5? This is the same misunderstanding, this idea that it works acutely. And just we use these terms like when we say acutely, we mean immediately. We mean it works on the thing giving you a hard time right now. And people find that when they take ashwagandha, that it does increase stamina, that they do feel like they have more energy over time. And I think that's because they get better sleep, but that doesn't mean that it's a sedative or a stimulant. It's not a stimulant. It helps your body to adapt to stress. And therefore, you have more energy throughout the day as time goes on, as you continue to take it.
Yes, which going back to it being an adaptogen, ashwagandha has a normalizing effect in the body. It helps normalize the body's processes so it has adequate energy when it should. So it has, the ability to sleep when it needs to. It's not specifically doing anything that is stimulating or suppressing or sedating. So when people say you can take it for energy, yes, absolutely true. It does help free up your energy reserves over time. It just doesn't happen in the moment. You won't get an immediate boost from it.
Yep, it's slow and steady.
Yes. Okay, which takes us to myth number 6. And this is going to be a little bit of a callback to our episode. You can take ashwagandha in any form. You can walk into the supermarket and grab any old ashwagandha, anything off the shelf, and get benefit.
You said call back to the tinctures episode. What the halides do not extract well in alcohol. They don't extract well in water either. So if you're making ashwagandha tea, you're wasting your ashwagandha. If you're making ashwagandha tincture, you're wasting your ashwagandha. The only way I've ever taken ashwagandha is the whole plant, the whole herb. And when I say whole herb, I mean dried powdered root.
Same.
And are we going to talk about gummies here?
We can talk about gummies here. Do you have something to say about people's ashwagandha gummies?
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I quit taking my supplements in gummy form when I was about 10. This idea that I'm going to take something and I'm going to mix it with gelatin and sugar, something that's really good for me, and I'm going to mix it with gelatin and sugar and hope that it's still just as good for me is ludicrous.
Yeah. I don't know if this is off topic, but I know how you and I take our herbs and we take powders mixed in water and chug them down for the most part, and that's what I train my clients to do. And I always parrot in my head and to my clients what my professor says. He's like, "Don't be immature, you're taking your medicine."
You're taking your medicine. It's like a spiritual practice. I had a teacher once years ago. She had to go through chemo at one point, and she was a daily sadhana practitioner. She did 2.5 hours of meditation every day. And when she went through chemo and radiation, she couldn't do that. And it bothered her. And she said that her teacher said, "This is your sadhana. This is your spiritual practice. You take your medicines." And so that's part of one of the things that I try to impress upon people. It's like my body is a temple for fill in the blank, what works for you. And you have to take care of that temple. And this is how we do it. I don't do this for me, I do it for the people that I serve. And that seems to make it easier to do.
Well, I have a similar sentiment. Like, I don't take herbs or
Um,
do these things for fun or for my thrills. I do it because it's my way of honoring my body. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it doesn't taste good, but that's kind of the cost of nourishing your body. Like, it's not always easy and it's not always as delightful as chomping on some Flintstone shaped gummy bears. That's just not reality.
So, yeah, I mean, the way to take ashwagandha, the best way to take this particular plant is in its whole form, dried powdered root, unless you're lucky enough to have some whole root that you can get a hold of that isn't dry.
I'm also going to tack on to this section that traditionally we use the roots. Everything we know about this plant is based on the roots. So, as we're talking about being able to take in any form, right? We know tinctures don't work, we know teas don't work. We also should pay attention to what part of the plant is being used and make sure that we are using the root because that is what works. That's where the medicine is. We're not going to have this mysterious are there going to be side effects or issues from something that we don't know because it's never been used before, like the leaves. And I'll also add one more caveat onto that is the extracts, as we've kind of brought up a couple times throughout this episode, they're new. We don't know what's going on with them yet. They are taking this plant and concentrating in a really serious way that changes the way that it's acting in the body, and we can't vouch for that. I can't vouch for that. I never have anyone on an ashwagandha extract ever.
Ever. Yeah. Yeah. You don't know what's going to happen. Herbs are mild and very safe because they're natural and, as you say, food like. But when you take one thing and concentrate it and turn it into something that's more pharmaceutical like, it's going to take some time before we really know all of the things that that can do. You know, hit me up in 10 or 20 years, and then I'll know more about ashwagandha root extract. The world will know more. So, what's this next one?
Myth number 7 is that ashwagandha activates the immune system. So if you're dealing with an immunosuppressed disease, like maybe you have HIV or another type of illness of that sort and you're on immunosuppressants, you should not take ashwagandha because it's going to stimulate your immune system and make this disease that you have even more dangerous.
There's so many problems with this. Where did you get this one?
Instagram reels, that's what the people were saying.
Really? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you send me those.
Oh, yeah, and it's on the internet, like, you can go read articles and such.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, autoimmune is there's these things in the world, in the medical world, that are treated like fact. They're treated like proven facts, and they're not facts. They are, in fact, theories that are treated like facts. The idea that if you have an autoimmune disorder, you have an overactive immune system, and therefore the solution is to suppress your immune system is a working theory that is being worked on in the medical world. But nobody knows that that's what autoimmune actually is.
Well, can I just say it is absolutely a gross misunderstanding of the immune system that it is an overactive immune system that causes autoimmune disorders. It is a dysregulated immune system. It's a confused immune system. It's not your immune system's on or it's off. Your immune system is so complicated. It is probably one of the most complicated systems of the body, which I could segue down a lot of rabbit holes with this. So I'm going to try not to, but to oversimplify the immune system as, oh, it's working too hard or it's too understimulated is just like such a disservice to your health and to the understanding of the human body and how intricate it is.
And then we get into the fact that ashwagandha doesn't stimulate a specific part of the immune system. It has a normalizing effect on the entire body. It helps the central nervous system to function and regulate. It helps with your endocrine system, helps things to function and normalize, which in turn can, I don't want to say normalize again, can help to make the immune system operate more efficiently. It's not going to hurt somebody who has an autoimmune disease.
Again, I just like, let's zero in on normalizing effect, a modulating effect. That means it's not going into your body doing one thing in a specific way. It's interacting with your body and helping the system get what it needs to perform optimally. And that might look different in every single person, which is just a testament to how complex these plants are and a testament to how complex our bodies are, that we have things that can move your blood or stop your body from bleeding because plants are intelligent. They can do two actions that might be seemingly contradictory because these plants are intelligent, our bodies are intelligent, and we really need to understand what this modulating and normalizing means because it totally does not work on the immune system like people think it does.
No, I mean, it helps. It's a Rasayana. It helps to support the body. It's rejuvenative. Um, and I wish we understood more, right? If we understood more about these plants, because if we contributed more than 0.36% of the amount of money that this country spends on research to natural remedies, to plant medicine, then we would know so much more. And we could make a better scientific argument. But I will say I think it's commonly understood that people who are on chemo and radiation get immunosuppressed. And there is study after study after study after study of ashwagandha's positive effects on helping people to recover from cancer and the effects of chemo and radiation. So it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it's not true.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. If I was immunosuppressed, why wouldn't I want to activate that immune system?
Another thing I want to just touch on, because for some people who hear that these plants don't get the research or the attention that other parts of the medical system do, like our drugs and our pharmaceuticals, that might be kind of scary. And you think that these things are unknown, but they're not. These things have been used for thousands of years. The only difference is now we're trying to take this and that exists inside of a medical system that thinks and views the body as completely differently than Western medicine.
Yeah.
And we're trying to put it in that box. So we know how ashwagandha works in the body. We know it's effective. We know it's safe. We know that it's been proven over, again, 5,000 plus years. The only difference is now we're trying to shove it in our very narrow Western medical terminology and view of the body. And that's what we don't have the research on anymore, or we don't have the research on. It's not that this plant's not effective or we don't know how it works. It's that it hasn't been shoved into this specific box yet.
Yes, because we know a lot about ashwagandha and how it works. I just mean, I wish I had a list of every single constituent in the plant and exactly what that constituent has done in a petri dish. But really, at the end of the day, all that would help me do is make a better argument for it. It would not help me teach people how to use it better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when you're up against this medical model that wants things in one way, to not have this information in that way, it's
Mhm.
hard to make the argument, but I totally see what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, and you make a great point. I think that you would agree with me that I don't see the respiratory system as separate from the cardiovascular system, as separate from the endocrine system, as separate from the central nervous system. Do you?
No, we are not cars with interchangeable parts. Everything is so interconnected that you can't look at anything in a vacuum.
So it's all connected. And that's the idea with, ashwagandha works on GABA or it boosts T cells. These things come from the idea that it's going to do this one thing on this one system of the body. And to somebody who's in the conventional medical model, it probably sounds ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to think that it activates the immune system, so don't take it if you're immunosuppressed. That sounds ridiculous to me, and it probably sounds ridiculous to somebody who's been trained or has learned or lived in the conventional model that this is something that can support every system, that it's going to help your circulatory system, it's going to help your immune system, it can help your central nervous system and your endocrine system and your urinary system and your reproductive system. It's like, what? Doesn't that sound magical?
It
Sounds
is
too good to be
magical.
true. It is magical.
Magical. But that's such a great point that we're dealing with two so different systems, like such different systems. Herbal medicine is such a different view of the body and plants and how things work compared to Western medical model. And sometimes like it's hard to mesh the worlds together and make each of the sides understand each other.
Mhm. It's the plants, man.
It's the plants, which
Plant.
takes us to myth number 8. Don't take it if you're on blood thinners, have diabetes, or high blood pressure. Again, this was off of Instagram. But let me caveat this because when I'm saying these things are off Instagram, these are from really big accounts, doctors, people that are very big influencers in the health and wellness space. These aren't just like random people. These are people with some badges and some merit behind them and hundreds of thousands to millions of followers that are saying these things that I have been parroting throughout this episode.
Yeah, I just don't even know where this is coming from. The only thing that I can think of that would be a problem, for example, is if you have diabetes and you're taking ashwagandha and ashwagandha helps to normalize your endocrine system, then maybe you wouldn't have to take as much metformin as you did before you started taking the ashwagandha, and you could have some side effects, but the side effects wouldn't be from the ashwagandha, the side effects would be from the metformin.
Yeah, or with the high blood pressure in theory, right? You're doing something that could cause your blood pressure to become lower, but it's not going to work in this dramatic interactive way that I think they're thinking it will. They're really coming at it from a pharmaceutical standpoint of things have interactions and cause issues.
Well, and you said all of these things are coming from people on Instagram who are professionals in high standing. So I have a question for you. How many of them are trying to sell you something?
Oh, that's a great question. Most of them.
Most of them. I mean, I don't have thousands of Instagram followers. I think I'm up to about 140. But if I did and I were selling supplements, I would sure want to make sure that I cover all my bases for liability purposes. I mean, it's kind of like a pharmaceutical commercial. This may cause cancer, rectal bleeding, restless leg syndrome. So now I've warned you, if you take this and any of these things happen, you can't blame me.
That's such a good point. I didn't think about it from that context. But yes, a lot of people that are talking about these things do have an agenda being on Instagram, either promoting a different supplement or promoting ashwagandha and giving some blanket warnings, which now I'm realizing are some CYAs, some cover your ass things. And they also probably just don't know the nuances of the herbs that they are promoting and don't know how these things work. People are really afraid of drug interactions. I had someone reach out to me who was afraid to take Trifala because it has this herb amla in it, and you shouldn't take that if you're on aspirin because in theory, that's gonna thin your blood. The aspirin's gonna thin your blood, and then you have, some watery ass blood happening.
They're afraid that it's just going to start leaking out of their blood vessels like it does when you take, what is it, warfarin? I think that will just make blood start leaking out of your blood vessels if you take it at high enough doses. But this is where I continue. I'm just quoting Michael Tierra here. Herbs are mild. They're complex and they're mild. And they are, and we can quote KP Khalsa, dramatic, dynamic, and effective when used correctly, in the right form, at the right dose, for the right amount of time. The things that people are concerned about aren't going to happen overnight. And then when you're dealing with people, I mean, I'll say this about drug interactions, and you can call this a drug interaction if you want to, but this isn't ashwagandha, this is triphala. I gave my grandmother, who was in her 80s, some triphala for some geriatric constipation. And it worked really well on the geriatric constipation at about 1 gram a day. But after 2 weeks, she started to experience a little bit of dizziness. She had adult onset diabetes and was a daily insulin injector. The way that she perceived it was that she had a reaction to the triphala. She had to stop taking the triphala because it was interacting with her diabetes. And the way that I see it is that she had an opportunity to continue taking the triphala and no longer be constipated and decrease her insulin dose. And is that an interaction with the insulin? Or is something in the triphala helping her body to function more effectively?
To me, I'm listening to that and I'm thinking, well, triphala, first of all, is like super mild at 1 gram a
Super mild.
day. When your body is moving things out of it, right? We're getting the waste out of the system. The system's going to work better. It's going to be able to manage blood sugar better. It's not under so much stress. So we're going to take it one step further and say it's improving a physiological process that is then making the insulin less needed. So there's nothing directly interacting here. It's, hey, we're helping the body come back into balance. The medication is no longer as needed.
Yeah, it really is all about perception. We can see these things as problems or we can see them as opportunities, just like anything in life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's such a great point. The perception of it and how we're viewing and understanding these things. And I love that we're able to have an uncensored conversation because for a lot of people, this is a big scary topic.
Oh, ashwagandha?
No drug interactions. Actually, if you get on Instagram, the dark side of ashwagandha is actually
Dark side. Like, I'm thinking of like, there has to be, was it Dragon Ball Z? Where like they'd go over to the dark side.
I don't know.
Oh gosh. Okay.
They're Star Wars, come on over to the dark side, you know.
I like Darth Vader on ashwagandha. Oh, your father. It's like, I don't know. It just seems so silly. So like in sum, ashwagandha is an adaptogen, y'all. It's safe, it's effective, it's good for you. But preparation matters, dose matters, and you matter. You know, Lila and I are two different people with different constitutions. We react differently to different plants and are able to take different plants in different doses. So practice some awareness no matter what you're taking.
Amen. And when in doubt, look at traditional uses and how something has been proven to work for thousands of years versus our modern take with this very narrow gauge. And I think you're going to be pretty safe if you stick with that.
Yeah. And I think we continually come back to that. Don't trust trends and marketing claims. When the person educating you is trying to sell you a product, check your sources. Be skeptical. Ask hard questions.
Yes. Reach out to us. Talk to us.
Or when are you skeptical? Talk to someone, but talk to somebody. Ask questions. Think for yourself. Use that beautiful mind.
Don't trust everything you hear on the internet.
No, don't trust everything you hear on the internet. So ashwagandha is generally safe when used well. It's not appropriate for everyone at all times. And there's some nuance. So always work with someone who understands the terrain, who understands the ins and outs and the idiosyncrasies, because there's a lot to this.
There really is. It's never just as simple as going and taking this substance for this thing. That is not a sustainable way to do healthcare. There's nuance in all these conversations that we really got to start paying attention to.
Yes, and that whole idea that I have this thing, this is the thing that people take for this thing, is what leads people to have experiences that end with them walking away saying, "I tried herbal medicine and it didn't work." And so please don't do that, because herbal medicine works so well when used effectively.
Dynamic, dramatic, and effective, baby.
All right.
Well,
Well,
thank you guys for joining. I'm so excited to talk about ashwagandha.
so this was our first Mythbusters episode, myth busting ashwagandha. There will be more to come. If there is something that you're hearing a lot of buzz about and it's really trendy and you want to know if everything that they're saying about it is true, then let us know. We'll do an episode on that particular plant or supplement. And thank y'all for listening. We'll see y'all next time. Bye. If you're interested in Alicia and Lila's offerings, coaching programs, or other exciting events, please check out our websites, thelivingwellnesslounge.com and holisticallycorrect.com.